Hello and welcome to the North Bank podcast, where I'm trying to sound really cheery because we've got to get through the next 30-40 minutes somehow. Anyway, I'm joined by Chris and Stef as ever. Hi guys.
Hello, mate.
Hello. I'm not going to try and
Okay.
sound happy.
Well, that's the balance there sorted, isn't it, between me and you? Okay, look, it's an odd one. We got a 2-2 draw against Villa yesterday. I know, Chris, me and you we're at odds with each other, even into today as well, about whether we deserved to win the game or not, and various definitions of deserved. But I mean, we got 4 points out of Villa this season. That's four more.
Are you trying to make us feel good now?
That's 4 more than we got last season. I thought the performance was really good. 0 to 60 minutes, dominated. Havertz scored the goal. I mean, foolishly, kind of half relaxed. I thought I really celebrated that second goal because I thought that's the one, that's the cushion.
The players.
And then there was that 9 minutes of, I don't know,
relaxation,
brain farts, and then 70 to 90 minutes. We actually looked like the only team that was going to score, which hasn't always been the case this season. But Steph, you were in the ground. What was it like in terms of just the kind of overview or takeaway from the game itself, like in kind of broader terms? We'll get into the nitty gritty in a minute, but in broader terms.
The takeaway by the end was just an absolute mood killer. It was a real puncturing of the atmosphere, because it wasn't, like you say, there are things you can say that can kind of zhuzh up what's gone on, and you can contextualise it, but just in the context, and having earlier had to witness Liverpool score 2 late goals to win at Brentford, it absolutely killed the vibe. I think a lot of belief in people evaporated, and especially because we were 2 goals up and it was there for the taking, and it was only due to lack of concentration, lack of an ability to really change things from the bench, that really annoyed us. Because actually, like you say, leading up to that point, to get into the 2-goal lead, we were doing all right.
So what went wrong?
We gave the likes of Ollie Watkins far too much room. We didn't track the run of Tielemans. We didn't do some of the basics well enough, because the players that had come in to replace the usual starters are not at the requisite level, or we were playing some players in positions that they're not up to speed in or familiar in, and were just not necessarily good enough for long enough.
Chris, what was your sense?
Well, I'll have to go back to the team selection and the news of Saliba obviously being injured, and that's something that we all agreed on. And going back, several podcasts where we've always said putting Partey at right back is not. We don't sigh over that because he's a terrible right back. It's because of what we're losing in playing him in his natural position, right? Something we've all agreed on, I think, in the past. But no, I don't think anyone would say he was a terrible right back and expect him to play quite as badly as he did in those 2 instances, particularly second. So for me, I just felt like it was something you could almost not legislate for, that sort of turning off as he did. And that for me was the kind of big moment of I think we were saying, well, do we blame Arteta for that? And I think yes, we do insofar
Sorry,
as...
I do anyway.
Yeah, but... And I kind of do in sense of long-standing wise. It's like the definition of an idiot is, he keeps trying this thing. The record speaks for itself. But even I didn't expect Partey to drop a ricket or 2 as he did.
But it's such a specialist position. And if Partey's
that was just schoolboy.
No. He's just a fraction of a second delayed. He for me, the more criminal goal was the first one, because Digne had the freedom of the left-hand side. Yes. So I don't know what happened there. And Marino, who was signed because of his dual-winning capabilities, let his man go, and Tielemans got ahead of him fractionally, and that was it. That was the momentum killer. Or the switcher, if the transition of momentum from us to them, and they hit the post and then scored the equaliser. The part that's the equaliser Partey made that decision to step out and to play offside, and that's just a lack of experience and a cohesion with his backline at that moment. But you wouldn't get Timber doing that, and you wouldn't get Kivior doing that, and you wouldn't get Miles Lewis-Skelly doing that, because they're so specialist in that position and trained within that position. But a fraction of a second delay is enough at this level to cost you. And to me, like, it's 3 round pegs in square holes, okay? Partey at right back deprives us of our best midfielder this season, arguably. It also deprives us of a decent attacking sense down that right-hand side. Not to mention the defensive frailty that ultimately cost us 2 points yesterday. And it puts us with the right back playing a centre back. It's like 3. It does not make sense. It's not like if this was the first time it happened, but what was it, 2 or 3 games at the start of last season, Arteta played Partey at right back, and it did not work. Simple as that. The only game we've won with Partey at right back this season was home to Southampton. It does not work, and I do not know. I said it in the chat. I'm like angry that he's done that, because it's not. And my sympathy for him is gone, because in terms of this decision, because you could say, oh well, Ben White not there, Tomiyasu not there, fine, but you've got a centre back on the bench, Kivior. You're not prepared to move him from the left centre back to right centre back, but you are prepared to shift 3 positions. I don't understand it. Or as someone put out, might have been Arseblog, I don't know, play Rice at centre back. He's done it before, but it keeps Timber at right back and Partey in central midfield. It makes no sense, and for me, that 2 points dropped. We talked about what we were looking for from Arteta at the start of last season and this season, and it's to rotate your squad and be that. He has 0 flexibility almost. It's like he's got this idea in his head that Partey at right back works, and I feel sorry for Partey because he's doing all right. Yesterday was the first time you'd say he cost us actual goals defensively, but like, I don't understand it. I mean, you could play another fullback, play Miles Lewis-Skelly at right back if you're going to move Timber, and put Zinchenko at left back. We've got fullbacks, they're specialist positions. I don't understand. There's no excuse for it. There's no rationale behind it. There's no reason behind it. It's just a bizarre insistence on this. And I'd love to know if anyone calls him out on it in the presses. I don't hear any feedback or reporting on it, and I don't understand it.
Rice had a pop at him after the second one.
Had a pop at Partey, but I want someone calling Arteta out on it. Why are you insisting on this? And present the question to him with the body of evidence. Like, get him to explain. So, there is no explanation. I don't understand it. It's not like, so what's Kivior saying on the bench? What's he thinking? Partey's a 4th choice right back, But anyway, so look, I can't remember what my question was, if there was a question, but it's.
I think that I was just bringing it back to the team selection in the way that I was examining the kind of. We all had that sense of, oh no, when we saw the team sheet, because we knew what was coming really in the right back.
Yeah.
And so it came to pass. Like you said, it's this time he has been cruelly exposed, and it's cost us.
And I think there's 2 things going on there, because you're right in this. Absolutely, 100% agree with the selection decision and damaging us not just once but twice, maybe 3 times. But also, I mean, Partey's headspace just didn't seem to be right yesterday. That throw-in to no one was just the most bizarre moment of the game for me, in a game of seemingly endless bizarre moments, that just implied to me that whether it was an overload, like this cognitive overload thing, because he's in a different position and he's having to concentrate, and Villa frankly are a good side. I'm not sure. I think they were a little bit underwhelming in the first half, and we were able to take advantage of that. But we knew that they were going to come at us second half, and they were just players were just doing some bizarre things and were slow to react.
they didn't really come at us at all, Villa.
Well, no, and it was also strange in the sense that even when they'd got back to 2-2, it wasn't like, I don't know, I feel like there was momentum there and they could have definitely pressed the advantage because we were completely rattled by that point. And yet it was us that seemingly took the initiative again. And it was such a bizarre game. But that's where your muscle memory needs to be relied upon. So having players in their more natural positions, and we know we've got players who are very flexible, like you say, it's not necessarily even Partey at right back. It's just making sure that the right play, as many of the right players are where they need to be. That it's just all weird.
I agree in that they didn't really have to change much. They probably would have been okay with 1-0 at half time. They came out, they didn't really do anything drastically different. They were sitting fairly deep and breaking as they do. You know, Watkins mentioned actually afterwards, we know we can find space against Arsenal. That's just how it is. You know, so it feeds into what I was going to say about, you know, how we perceive us as, we've said this before, about how we dominate and how we, you know, we look at the stats and go, oh, we've dominated, we should be doing better. Well, teams know that's how we play and they are comfortable with that. They can sit back and absorb that to a point.
There's two things on that. We seem to be, I haven't looked at the stats on this, but we seem to be punished disproportionately for the chances we concede and then our own profligacy in their box. So it's like we have dominated against United, against Spurs, and we have created chance after chance after chance, and we just haven't taken enough of those chances. It was enough to get the victory against Spurs, not enough against United, and not. I don't think were there any glaring missed chances yesterday?
What, from us?
Yeah, like glaring where you think he
not
should
glaring.
have
I mean,
scored.
we hit the post
at
one point as well, but no, not necessarily.
Yeah, and from the rebound, Trossard had it. Martinez made a good save from the rebound.
Yeah.
So
I just want to pick up on the disproportionate punishment from opposition chances point, because I think, you know, having witnessed it with my own eyes on so many occasions, I think you have to, you know, yes, low XG in terms of chances conceded, but again, that's not telling the story of what we see with our eyes. We try and press such an advantage and hold such a high line and force the territory into the opposition half. But like you say, Villa are a good enough counter-attacking side, and United are a good enough counter-attacking side. Newcastle are a good enough counter-attacking side to know that, where they'll basically just go, right, come on then. Yeah, bring it on, because what we'll do is we'll play 2 or 3 passes and we'll break your lines really quickly because, yes, Gabriel and Saliba are brilliant at holding the fort. Rice is like Stretch Armstrong when he's trying to intercept, and that's why Partey is so good in that specialist position, but his recovery speed as a fullback is not good enough, and they will get up the pitch. Now, the chance that they get might not be a high XG chance, but it's still a chance. And I think we're vulnerable in that area, and that's a systematic thing now.
And in the first half yesterday, towards the end of the first half, Gary Neville in co-commentary said that Aston Villa have had a lot of nearly moments in that first half. And it was that gap between, it was that space in front of our defence that there was a lot of opportunity. Timber made a really good kind of interception on Ollie Watkins, but there were a couple of times where Villa's passing was a little bit off. The radar wasn't quite there, and there were nearly moments, and enough, and that's probably why when Havertz got the second goal, I thought, okay, that's it. That's a cushion now. We can take stock, and I don't know the minutes between us going 2-0 up and then concession of that first goal. It was only like 5 or 6 minutes.
It was about 5, yeah.
And yeah, it was just it was frustrating. I mean, because 0 to 60 minutes we did really well. 70 to 90 minutes, like you say, we regained our composure and we kicked on, and we did look like the only team who were going to go on and win the game, without maybe that full-on conviction that a decent substitute off the bench would have provided, other than Raheem Sterling, who, like, I mean, I heard someone say that the crowd, he's lost the crowd. So you were in the ground. What was happening? Okay, go on.
I mean, there was a moment. I mean, I think there was two moments. I can't visualize them as clearly in my head, but there was a moment when he played. He'd come inside and then laid a ball back, almost like a reverse pass to someone who would then get to the byline and cross, but it was overhit. There was another moment where he sort of had the chance to progress forward, but ended up going back. I mean, it just, again, the vibes are off, and I think. If I'm being kind, look, there will be fans and they'll say things and they'll moan about Sterling and this, that, and the other. But actually, it's not necessarily directed at him per se. I think he's a victim of what he represents in terms of our poor recruitment and the injuries that we've suffered. That mean he's literally the only attacker that we could turn to on the bench without dipping into a bunch of, what were they, 16, 17-year-olds on the bench. So I think that is fueling that as well. And let's face it, as a Chelsea loanee, he's got to work a little bit harder to win us over. We bring on one of those 18-year-olds, you go, oh, nice try, because they're a kid and they can forgive themselves. He is on loan on extortionately high wages from a rival club who is an England international and scored a bag full of goals for them, won stuff at City. He's got to work a little bit harder and show a little bit more, and boy, are we not seeing it. But he is a victim of the situation we're in, and it's a poor one. You
can see possibly why Arteta hasn't given him more minutes.
Well, yeah. Because
if he sees that in training...
I want to know how much Arteta wanted him in the first place. I'd love to know. I know Edu did that whole press thing about, sometimes an opportunity arises.
Well, he had a good relationship with him at City, didn't he?
And he did work with... Yeah,
sure.
He did, yeah, so...
but that was Sterling circa 7 years ago.
That was then.
Yeah, Sterling does credit Arteta with transforming his game at City. He worked with him one-to-one. And so, maybe.
Something also you alluded to, Holly, was the bench that Liverpool had, in stark contrast. So worth mentioning.
Arteta alluded to it as well post-match.
He did.
Which is interesting. And, okay, that's a little segue into something that you said, Steph, before we started recording. Have you got Tim Stillman's...
well, I haven't got the quote, but I can certainly paraphrase it. He was posting on Blue Sky this morning about... his thoughts and feelings the day after the night before. And he said, he couldn't bring himself to be angry at the players and the coach who seem to be doing everything they can, in difficult circumstances, can't fault the effort, blah, blah, blah. But he says he wonders how much those above Arteta in the higher echelons of the club are working to try and supply him with the tools he needs to succeed. And obviously I'm inferring from that, the players and the squad and the potential changes we need in order to improve.
Edu leaving is increasingly coming into sharper focus. Why would he leave that position? You said, Steph, it's quite a prestigious position to hold.
Sporting director at Arsenal Football Club, having taken them from the doldrums of finishing 8th up to challenging for the title back in the Champions League. And
that trajectory is not finished.
And that trajectory hopefully is not finished. But to then,
on a relatively modest salary, if we're going to talk, what carrot was waved before him. I'm not saying this was the reason, but he's on significantly more with Marinakis at the Forest Group.
And if that's what motivates him, then fair enough. I can't imagine that's...
Or more autonomy, more because he's got 3 clubs to play with.
Okay, but that's starting to come into the reason why, perhaps, because he's maybe feeling, well, I can't do any more. We don't know what happened last summer. We went for Sesko, and there was no pivot to another striker.
So what is it you're suggesting that might have tied his hands a bit with us?
So I think we've been backed by the owners, Declan Rice and so on, Havertz, big money outlay. I don't know how much our outlay was, our net spend was over the summer, but we got a lot of kind of 100% sales off with Emil and Eddie and so on. That may getting us into the Champions League and the money there was their aim. And does it become as attractive to them, the owners, getting us from finishing second, third or fourth to first, kind of spend reward scenario. But then to counter that, all their kind of franchises in America are successful, and they've ploughed a lot of money into them. So I've changed my tune on the Crunkies largely because of Josh, and he's more visible and he seems to get it. And I don't know, and so Edu maybe wanted to go. Maybe there was another striker they wanted to go for, or maybe if we don't know, we could have offered Sesko. Sesko gave the reason of wanting more playing time and not a guarantee of playing time coming to Arsenal, which is fair enough as a 20-year-old. He could develop much more quickly if you've got more playing time. Now he's guaranteed playing time now at the club, and so maybe that is true. But maybe if we chucked an extra 10, 15, 20 million at the club, he'd have come, but maybe that wasn't the backing, and maybe Edu thought, well, do you know what? I'm reading the room here, and if an opportunity comes elsewhere, I'll jump at it because this is as far as I can go because I'm being thwarted in my ambitions or intentions moving forward, and I don't want to be held responsible for that because it'll damage my reputation and so on. But I have no idea. But something's happened. It was an odd summer. Yeah.
More importantly, where we are now is the interim guy who's apparently doing, as much as Edu was doing. He's very much, embedded into the job. Is he doing enough? And what's that relationship like? And is he Arteta's little, yes man? Or
well, you can't think that Arteta doesn't want a striker.
Arteta would want more players.
Yes,
the coach
of course.
Right,
every coach does.
Yeah,
so something's not right there. Like I call you back to my quote from 3 years ago, where we're in desperate need of a striker, and here we are, 3 years later. Lo and behold, having not signed a striker in 3 years, in desperate need of a striker. I mean, who could have imagined it? It's like yeah.
I think it's also compounded by the irony of having the two signings that we did make in the summer, one of whom seems to be overtaken by Miles Lewis-Skelly, and the other one is yet to convince.
Well, perpetually injured Calafiori, and listen, we'd be having a different conversation about Mourinho had Havertz not stuck his hand out. We'll come back to that, and his other shot not hit the post.
I'm not sure because, like you say, Mourinho.
Well, that would have been a big moment. Come on,
Mourinho but Mourinho letting Tielemans go the way he did, I don't know.
He worries me that he's not up to the speed of the Premier League.
Yeah, and look, he's had a very disjointed start to his Arsenal career. So one hopes that a pre-season in the summer, and going in fresh into next season might be the making of him. But it's hard to see at the minute, and we're in a position now with the season the way it is, and a lot of people are saying that there are fewer eggs in which to fewer eggs to put in whatever basket that we've got
to make
left.
an omelette
or whatever
chickens. What?
Yeah, essentially the title's
fewer
gone.
eggs in chickens.
Fewer chickens to have eggs.
Surely. Which came first?
Look, this is no yoke. Okay. Basically,
exceptional.
A lot of people were saying that essentially the title's gone now after yesterday, which I'm a bit more reticent to say, but at the same time, I definitely feel. God, I feel it today.
It does feel pivotal, doesn't it?
Oh, it feels massive
this weekend. Having said that, we haven't lost any ground in the last 6 or 7 game weekends, if you like. Well, one of my points was title over ? I was going to put it to you. So, Steph, title's not over yet, or it is?
My gut's telling me it is. Yeah.
Chris?
Same. I felt yesterday that was a real gut punch, and it made me think, if we look back and we've just finished shy of Liverpool, this will be one we look back on, as we did last season, as being one that we let go.
I think we've got a litany of moments and games we could
I'm sure there are more to come, unfortunately.
That's the problem.
That's the thing for me as well.
Yeah.
A bad result can happen, but what I don't see is much change in direction, and that's a whole bunch of things. It's Arteta's stubbornness. It's the club not going and buying anyone in January. It's also injuries and injuries, but also some of the players. I was saying around the kind of middle of the second half, which is interesting when the goals came around, that some players did look like dead on their feet, because we're not even able to just take a few minutes from the bench at the moment because we are just running on fumes. So look, there's sort of excuses, but what it means in the short term is not much is going to change. You know, Wolves next week, it's going to be roughly the same team and it's going to be roughly the same options from the bench. So what are we going to expect different, apart from the fact that it's the opposition? And that was another thing I thought yesterday. It's like, well, we beat Tottenham 2-1 in midweek, and that was great because you beat your local rivals and this, that and the other, but we all came away saying the performance still wasn't absolutely brilliant. Well, Villa are a much better side than Tottenham, and for a good 10-15 minute spell in the second half yesterday, they showed that and were able to take their opportunities, and we, you know, couldn't cope with it for a moment. But, you know, we'll still show flashes, but while those moments are there in games, it's going to be difficult.
We did come on stronger in that game, though, as well. The last 15 minutes, we were...
Was that through sheer bloody mindedness, though?
It hasn't always been like that this season.
No, it hasn't. You're right.
You know, I had hoped that we would score a goal. I was up off my seat a few times.
I was definitely up off my seat at one point because the ball went in the goal.
Shall we talk about that? Where do you sit? Have you seen replays?
Yes.
I don't know the ruling, but apparently it's if the ball goes, it doesn't matter whether it's accidental or not. If the ball goes into the back of the net off someone's hand or arm, it's disallowed.
Right. So I want to know: has it been confirmed? Because I've literally just ignored football today. Has it been confirmed whether the referee gave the goal or not initially? Initially, did the referee give it?
I think so.
It gave a goal. Right.
I think so.
For me then, I've not seen anything that's clear and obvious to show that it hit Havertz's hand or arm.
I don't think that doesn't matter if it hit his hand. There's an angle from behind the goal which shows it hitting his arm.
I've not seen that.
Well, there is, yeah.
Okay.
So if you listen to the only people I hear debating this, whether it was a goal or not, are Arsenal fans.
Ollie Watkins in his post-match interview said we've got away with one because they showed him it live on whatever it was.
There's an angle that you can see it where there's no. It looks like it's hit his midriff.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, from the referee's viewpoint, it's hit his midriff. It hasn't hit his hand at all. So when I saw the first replay of it, even though Gary Neville had been bleating on about a handball, Gary Neville was convinced straight away that it wasn't going to count. But the first replay that we saw on the telly, I thought, oh no, that's fine. That's hit his middle. It hasn't hit his arm at all. Then they showed the replay from behind the goal, and I thought, okay, yeah, that's hit his arm. But the other neutral supporters, fans from other clubs, to a man, have said that it was handball. Don't know what the issue is. And these are not kind of just baiting fans. These are
I don't
fans
want to be sat here and people accuse me of being, you know, a tinfoil hat wearer or whatever then, because the mood on the coach on the way home, the thing that really angered people was two things. One, us letting a 2-goal lead slip. That just overrided everything. That's what really annoyed people. Yeah. So we've got to definitely, you know, get our own house in check before anything else. But what really annoyed people, not the handball decision, I think it was Kamara, with a Villa player, on a yellow card, knocking the ball away, delaying a restart. And you're talking about doing it in a game where it's the same referee that had that whole furore around the Declan Rice delaying a restart thing. That is really sitting deep with Arsenal fans about the inconsistency of the refereeing.
If it's the same incident, towards the end of the game, as we were chasing, it was still 2. Was it towards the end? I mean, I can see why you'd think that from the North Bank. Actually, Arsenal were trying to take that free kick from about 20 yards further forward than it was, and so much so it was into their half, and it should have been halfway back into our half. And because I remember that, and I could hear the crowd absolutely going mental, and I'm thinking, no, he's just. And from I know our angle down where we sit, Steph, that we would, you couldn't tell, you wouldn't know where that was because you can't see the markings on the pitch from where we are in like row 5 and 6 or whatever. Yeah. So actually, it wasn't as egregious as it might have felt in the ground.
I would say though, just in support of Steph, that there is a sort of annoyingly a sort of tacit acceptance now that rule is just not enforced anymore, and that really grates because of how we suffered so severely.
I mean, we could be here for quite a while bemoaning poor refereeing decisions against us, poor injury record. Although, listen, I have to say about the injury thing, and I watched the Bournemouth performance up at Newcastle yesterday morning, and on their bench, they had 2 goalkeepers and 6 teenagers. One of those players on the bench had played more than 6 games in the Premier League. And they absolutely, and it's been like that for a few games. And they absolutely terrorised Newcastle. Like, they were so much better. It was a thing of beauty to behold and hope for Arsenal. So I think it can be a convenient excuse for us to point to. We're playing with better players. There's an attitude as well, I think, that we've, for whatever reason, I don't know. Chris, did you answer that title over or not?
Yeah, pretty
title
much.
Title over, okay. Okay, Chris, seeing as that was quite brief, genuine question. Do you actually think that we will sign anyone in January? Like, we absolutely need to, of course. And Arteta is now, like, he's changed his tune completely to we need bodies. Yesterday, again, and this is what points to issues above as well. The fact that he didn't shy away from the question. He said, Liverpool can bring on players to change the game. We cannot. Mm-hmm. That wasn't an answer for the journalist. That was very pointedly aimed at the people above him.
I just think if he doesn't, it's going to be kind of blood on the streets kind of thing. It's just how it feels at the moment. So I'm going to say yes. I think there will be a signing, and whether it's what we want, what we need.
Another goalkeeper. Or a left back. How about a left back to replace Tierney?
A defensive midfielder. Oh, well, we've got what's his face on the way, haven't we, from Sociedad? I don't know, just something to, reinvigorate us along the front. I mean, it's kind of desperate now, isn't it?
Yes. We've got we don't know how long Ranieri's out for. We've got Ben White back in training. I don't know, because I know he's a defender, but we absolutely need that body back there. I mean, Ben White playing at right back yesterday is a different story to Partey playing at right back yesterday, or Ben White playing at centre back would have been fine, and keeping Timber there. So it is important to get him back. I genuinely don't know when he's penciled in for a first team squad.
I can imagine that Ben White might make his return just before we have a weekend's break, having been out the FA Cup, when there might be a little trip to Dubai in the offing. Top up that tan.
Top up his tan, yeah.
He's going anyway, regardless. He'll book himself a separate flight. What do you think, Holly?
Oh.
I love turning the questions on you.
I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not hopeful. I must be honest. I'm not hopeful. Listen, there are encouraging murmurings about Sesko, but I think it comes down to us paying a bit more money. I know that with was it Williams that Zubimendi, isn't it? We want to pay more than the release clause, but have it spread over 2 or 3 years, so as not to have to pay it all in one lump sum. Williams is an odd one because I don't think he wants to come.
No.
And that's just like he certainly doesn't want to leave. But Barcelona are kind of set. They're not going to Rafinha. They're not going to get rid of Rafinha to pick up Nico Williams. And again, I think he might take a degree of settling in time. Semenyo from Bournemouth I really like, but why on earth would they even contemplate losing him midway through the season, especially when they've lost their 2 strikers and they're short on numbers? It would be kind of... So I don't know. We can't get a lone player from the Premier League. I don't know who that was. Evan Ferguson, possibly, but he can't even get in the Brighton team. So a bit odd loaning Evan Ferguson from Brighton, who are below us, well below us in the league, and he can't get into their team. I'm not hopeful.
No. And I still think, look, Arteta, I think, can use this team better in some respects. But in the front line, it's just so limited that I can't see how the club aren't trying to make something happen.
Can I say that I thought Trossard and Martinelli had one of their better games yesterday as well?
Trossard especially, because against Tottenham, although everyone was praising him for his goal, I actually thought his performance was a bit stodgy. Whereas yesterday he was improved.
He was more at it, and I prefer Martinelli on the right hand side, even though he did his usual running down blind alleys again. But he got on the end of that. He got on the end of Trossard's cross really well.
Yeah.
He barely got the ball across the line, but a goal is a goal. And I just thought he was a bit more, to the point where I was surprised that we were taking him off. I didn't think that was a sensible substitution to make. I get it. Arteta doesn't do anything and Sterling's on the bench. You need a goal and you keep Sterling on the bench. But I would have brought Sterling on, but I wouldn't have taken off Martinelli. I might have I might have done something with the shape of the team.
Yeah. I don't know. I think he's also trying to guard. I think they probably know from a sort of medical, physiological point of view what Martinelli's limits are, and I think that might have
he does
been
a lot of
factor.
running.
He does because he does a lot of running and it's high intensity. We've seen that Havertz has got a bit more of an engine. That's not really Trossard's game, I suppose. Odegaard, steamingly up to speed a bit more, so. I think that might have been. There
was one thing to say about both goals is that they were both kind of strikers' goals in the way that they got ahead of their men. And I loved Havertz's finish, and that will hopefully give him a big shot of confidence because he took it so well, the way he just cushioned it in almost. But earlier there were a couple of occasions where balls were put in, and I think Holly, you and I had mentioned it. Someone needs to take a risk.
Yes.
When they put those crosses in from the kind of corner of the 18-yard
Skelly put
box.
a cross in that no one was there for.
No one. Just have a go. You can see
3 players had stayed a bit deeper. For not one of them made that, and all it took was one of them, and it was the easiest tap in to an open goal. It was a brilliant cross, and I'm going to say, as well as Trossard, I thought Miles Lewis-Skelly again was immense, and from 70 minutes on, a lot of the play was going through him in midfield as well. He was showing for the ball.
Demanding it, wasn't he?
Yeah, and they were giving it to him, and of course he's a midfielder by trade. And I thought again, and he got inside. Morgan Rogers is a very, very good player, very physical player, but he got proper inside Morgan Rogers' head as well.
Yep.
And so, right. That's my little mini segue into, this is going to be the briefest of looks ahead to Zagreb on Wednesday. Chris, have you got your team?
Yeah.
Go on then.
Again, governed by what ifs, but I'm gonna.
You're gonna get. I'm going to scream every time Partey's name is mentioned at right back.
No, it's not. It can't be. I can't, and I'll scream if it is. It's so. I'm going to bring Kivior in as we had wanted to see, and I think he'll rest MLS. I mean, it would be nice to be able to rest more of them, but I just feel like we kind of need to nail this Champions League game. And so Raya, Timber, Kivior, Gabriel, Calafiori, Odegaard, Partey, Rice, Trossard, Havertz, Martinelli.
Okay, Steph.
You're not going to like this.
Partey right back.
I think he's so restricted on what he can do. Saliba.
Self-restricted.
Well, yes, absolutely. Arteta needs to ditch this bloody mindedness. Look at the sort of. It's not even. It's the eye test and the data as well. Like, just Partey. No. But I just don't. I think he will look at the first hour of our performance against Villa and think, well, that team is good enough to beat Zagreb, who have been pretty pony from what I know in the Champions League. So I think it will be exactly the same team that started. Raya in goal, Partey, Timber, Gabriel, Skelly, Odegaard, Partey, Marino, Martinelli, Havertz, Trossard. Like you say, what we would do is we would keep Timber at right back. We would move Partey into the midfield. We'd get Marino out and put Rice there instead. And then Gabriel or Kivior, just whoever prefers being on that side.
Yeah.
I'd even take Timber staying as the right back and putting someone like Zinchenko at right back. Because all he's going to do is invert anyway. So what does it matter?
We're home against a team who haven't played football in a month. So they might be fresh, but they'll be rusty as well. They lost 9-2 against Bayern Munich. They've beaten the two teams they've played who are below them. They've drawn 2 games and they've lost 2. I think, I'm not looking at the table or anything in front of me now, but I think they're on the cusp of the midsection, so the very bottom of the midsection. So there is something on it for them, but they'll have to win, which might prompt them to be a little bit more open. But yeah, I mean, look, I've put Zinchenko at left back. I think if you can't play Zinchenko at home against Zagreb, but when the bloody hell can you play him? I think Lewis Skelly needs a rest. I think Wolves away at the weekend is important. Who have we got after Wolves away? Is it the Champions League next week as well?
Girona.
Is it 2 quick Champions League games?
Yeah.
Okay, and then it's Man City at home on the 2nd. I've written down the team I think he'll play, not the team I want to play. Steph, I'd say exactly what you said. I'd put Kivior there. So I've written down Partey, Timber, Gabriel and Zinchenko, Marino, Rice, Odegaard, Martinelli, Havertz, Trossard. It's not what I want. It's what I think he'll do. I think Lewis Skelly, I know he's robust, a lot more robust than Ranieri has been, but he's 18. He's never ever played consecutive games at this intensity before. He needs a break because you just know that you know what's coming. Mm-hmm. It's like, Chris, score.
I'm going to say a comfortable 2-0. Get ahead and then we'll be able to relax from about 60 and change things around.
When have we ever relaxed on 60
Everyone
minutes
relaxed at 60
up?
against Villa and we ended up bloody conceding.
I'm being ironic.
It's too raw, Chris. It's too raw.
Sorry, it's too early. Too soon. I know.
Steph?
2-0. Arsenal.
Yeah, okay, I've gone 3-1 simply because I think we'll have a 2-goal, but I can't see us not conceding. Again, I have no idea who plays for Zagreb. I'm sorry, I just don't know. I think they're sitting 3rd in their league as well, so they're not even the top team in Croatia. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that it? I tell you what, people listening, you can't see what I'm seeing, but I'm seeing 2 very spent, washed out faces staring back at me please put us out of our misery and bring this godforsaken podcast to a close, please, man, do us a favour, help us.
It's
Have
funny,
mercy.
isn't it, because since football in my 30s has been arguably some of my most enjoyable, because I've grown up and matured and I've been able to compartmentalize things.
Debatable, mate.
Shut up. And just able to separate so that I just enjoy the football for what it is, and the highs and lows kind of like even out. Because in my 20s and especially in my teens, I used to get so angry and wound up. But what that's been replaced with now, I don't get angry. I just get really sad after a defeat like this. I've just been
Steph.
bloody Eeyore.
Just had to put your dog down.
I'm not taking it out on him.
The crumb of comfort for me was in seeing Man United come off the rails again after their kind of we're back sense of, we beat Arsenal, we beat Southampton, the mighty Southampton, and now they've crashed 3-1 at home to Brighton.
Yeah, so we're recording Sunday afternoon after Man United have lost at home 3-1 to Brighton, and Spurs, who were 3-0 down to Everton, the Everton who don't score, 3-0 down to Everton at half-time, but ended up getting it back to 3-2, but still lost.
Taxi for Ange.
Yeah, and we won't talk about the Man City game.
No.
But yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's so funny because, look, I'm pretty fed up with what's happened, but we're fed up because we were in a title race. We could be, where Spurs and United are. But that doesn't give me any crumb of comfort. No, and I would much prefer to just focus on how we change things. A less stubborn manager, a couple of new players, then go for it.
My frustration is underpinned by the fact that City have capitulated this season by their standards, and we're not the team to take advantage.
Hold on. Right, so, we weren't going to talk about it, but they've battered Ipswich today, 6-0. Now, Ipswich obviously are a new side to the Premier League, and we knew they were always going to struggle, but they've been all right. And that means that basically, City's results are improving. In no doubt linked to the fact that De Bruyne is now back in the team. I've still got that bit of my brain that says that they could put 10 wins together at some point. And then all of a sudden, boy.
Oh, I fully expect them to be pushing us at the end of the season.
Right.
And if not, like you said, putting a run together. But let's not dwell on that, please.
There's a Liam Delap playing at Ipswich that might be worth a little... they're going back down, aren't they?
And that, if the money we give them for Liam Delap, I don't think that
they won't let him go in January. They've got a chance.
But it would set him up for the Championship.
They paid 30 million quid for him, so we'd have to pay double that probably.
Yeah,
but only once they've gone down. It won't happen in January.
No. Listen, it will happen if we put the money up.
Really?
Yes, but we won't put the money up, so it won't happen. So there you go. Anyway, right, let's call it there. Thanks for the chat, guys. Thanks for listening, everyone else, and have a great week. And we'll catch up with you again after we've demolished Zagreb 2-1. Cheerio. Bye-bye.
See ya.
The North Bank, an Arsenal podcast. Subscribe, rate and review on your app, and find us on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok at North Bank Pod. Email hello@thenorthbankafc.com and check out our website, thenorthbankafc.com. Produced by The Podcast Company.
Good evening.